Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Carr. I'm an attorney here at Carr and Carr Attorneys. And what I'd like to do today is just discuss with you some things relating to fireworks, specifically some of the most dangerous fireworks that people are involved in getting hurt by, and also some things you can do to prevent those kinds of injuries. The statistics are pretty alarming, actually. About 9,100 people just last year were injured due to fireworks, and sometimes the firework injuries are due to operator error. For example, if someone's holding on to the firework for too long and the firework blows up in their hand. Other times, though, the injury could actually be occurring due to a defect in the firework. I would like to talk with you about probably the most serious kind of injury that you can sustain due to a firework, and what kind of firework that is. And that injury can occur to you even if you're not even using the firework. The most probably severe kind of injury from a firework occurs from a 6-inch or 4-inch or even 12-inch firework shells. And so what these kind of fireworks are not fireworks that you typically buy at a fireworks stand, but fireworks that are put on by professionals. So basically what happens is, this is a mortar tube, and inside the mortar tube is a hole, and the operator takes a 6-inch mortar shell and drops it into the firework shell, or firework mortar tube. And what happens is the firework sits in that mortar tube, and after about 3 or 4 seconds, the shell is lifted up into the air and then it explodes. But what happens sometimes is that there's a problem with the fireworks shell. So what can happen is that the explosion that lifts the shell up to the air doesn't happen, but the explosion that blows everything up and makes things look colorful does happen. And so we've had a case actually where the lift charge, the fireworks shell, did not go off, but the firework then exploded inside the mortar tube. And these mortar tubes are often, it's like a very hard plastic. And so when the fireworks shell goes off in the mortar tube, it causes shrapnel from the mortar tube just to fly everywhere. And it goes at very high rates of speed. The plastic is jagged and sharp, and so it can cause you to sustain severe injuries, and even can cause death. So when you're at a firework function and someone's using these big mortar tubes to shoot fireworks off of, be sure to stand back, way far back, preferably behind a barricade of some sort, because this shrapnel can fly 50 to 100 yards. So you have to be really, really far back. Those explosions that you see in these mortar tubes oftentimes happen for one of two reasons. One, the operator puts the firework shell in upside down, and so instead of the firework lifting up into the air and exploding, it just doesn't go anywhere. It just shoots down into the bottom of the mortar tube, sits there, and then explodes. The second reason why you might have a firework shell explode inside a mortar tube like this at a fireworks show is if the firework shell is defective, in that the lift charge does not work. The thing does not go up in the air at all, but the part that explodes does work, and so you could have an explosion occur like that. And so, yeah, if you're at a fireworks show and someone's putting off one of these things, be far back, be behind a barricade. And if you're putting one of these on, if you're loading a fireworks shell into a mortar tube, after you drop the shell into the mortar tube, stand behind a barricade, wear protective clothing so that if something does hit you, it doesn't penetrate you. When I say protective clothing, I mean something more than just sweatshirts and long pants. I'm talking about something that a firefighter might wear, something that thick. So the other kinds of common injuries that we would see involve sparklers, and this is a common kind of injury, because usually sparklers are given to little kids to light, because the sparklers don't involve explosions. They just are sparkly. But what I think people don't understand is just how hot those sparklers get. they get to, I think it's over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And so what I've seen happen before or heard about are children with sparklers, and they're playing like Sparkler Wars or something, and they're running around. And you can imagine what will happen if a child has one of these sparklers and trips and falls. That sparkler is going to go somewhere that's not supposed to go and cause severe injury, severe burns. Sometimes you hear about Sparkler Wars where kids are, playing with these sparklers and they try to hit each other with them. Again, they can cause severe burns. And I think they're probably the most common reason why people end up in the emergency room each year is from these sparkler injuries, especially with children. So simply put, I would not recommend children using sparklers. If you are going to use sparklers, be careful if you're waving it around. No one's around you. That's common sense. But one thing I would like to point out lastly is that if you have been injured by a firework shell or a firework, or if you know of someone who's been injured by a firework, it's not always because the person using the firework did something wrong. These fireworks are manufactured in China. There's very almost loose regulation on the production of these fireworks, almost non-existent regulation. So what happens, these fireworks are manufactured in some gigantic warehouse in the remote areas of China. The factories are not inspected. The workers are not credentialed. They're poor. They don't speak English. They manufacture fireworks just by the hundreds or thousands every single day. So the quality control is lacking. And so you get all these fireworks shipped over by boat to the United States. They get wet, they get damaged, and then they wind up in your house. And so there are many defective fireworks out there. And so if you have been injured by a fireworks shell, if you know of someone who's been injured by a fireworks shell, it's very possible they may have a claim against the person who sold the fireworks shell to them and against the company who manufactured the fireworks. So if you've been injured by a firework, you know of someone who has been injured by a firework, feel free to reach out to us and we can see what we can do to help. But I hope you all have a safe and enjoyable 4th of July, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.